So the next item down in the pre-processing toolbar here is to define materials. By default, Maestro starts with a single version of steel, this ST24, and you can come in here and change any of these parameters for the steel material if you want, or you can create a new one. And this is one of the things that you'll see throughout most of the dialogues, where you have a name for the material, or it can be names for the beams and plate and so forth, where you can define a name in whatever format you like. And then there's an ID number. And we saw those ID numbers when we were doing the view model by ID, and you could use the plate ID, the beam ID, and so forth. As you create each new material, it'll increment the ID number and create an additional one to add to the list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right now, we only have the first one defined. So if we go to create a new one, you hit ID to create a new material. And you can see we have ID 2. We would have to give it a new name, and we could call it EH36, and then go in and set all the properties manually. But a slightly easier way of doing that is to use this library button. We click on the library button, and actually I'm going to close and reopen this so I get back to just the one material in here. Oh, it already remembered it, so let me delete material 2. So now if we go into the library, and we'll create some AHEH-DH36. They all have essentially the same material properties in Maestro, other than the temperature aspect of them. We can also create an additional one. Let's say we'll use HSLA65. Now, you'll notice there's nothing added in the drop list here. There's nothing added in the drop list here, so you might be tempted to create them again, but that's simply a refresh issue. If we close the dialog and reopen it, you'll see it did actually add those materials from the library. So now we have 3 different versions of steel to choose from. And looking at some of the properties available for the steel material, the main ones that you're going to be concerned with are the first 5 here, the Young's modulus, Poisson ratio, density, yield stress, and perhaps ultimate tensile strength. As we move down through some of these other available properties, when we get down towards the bottom, you can see there's a material cost and a labor cost, and those come into play when you're doing the optimization. When you're running the optimization module, you can assign costs to different materials, beams, and so forth, so that when Maestro tries to optimize, you can use cost as one of the parameters.